You are watching Conscious Evolution with Wes Heffernan.
So yeah, we were talking about where we left off, and it was a good ending point, right?
Right. Yep. I think that's a good spot to end chapter 3, and I think that moving on and really trying to understand and bring everything together, because I can only imagine anyone that's followed along, and thank y'all so much, whether it's been through the whole journey so far, the story so far, or just bits and pieces, right? It's very segmented and fragmented, and wow, for me, it's telling a very precise and particular story. It's so compacted into just these, very hand-picked moments that we're looking at that probably doesn't make a lot of sense, right? And so, you've asked me a lot, other people have asked, I've asked myself constantly for decades, what is the purpose? And I think that it's time to start chapter 4 and kind of wrap up, at bare minimum, what the actual real purpose is of this story, a journey into the abyss that we've been telling and working through. And
chapter 4 out of how many chapters?
So
how long will we go?
So right. I mean, that's a good point, and I love having the conversations with you. And before I answer that question, I'm gonna keep with the train of thought here. It's interesting to me, and I have a hypothesis or an assumption. You can pick which one you want to go here with, but I came in the most unprepared, I would say, for this last sit-in. I mean, really, I had just come in out of town. We had been trying to get together, and it never worked out, and my schedule kept getting pushed, and we set a date, and I knew I had to be home because of Halloween, right? Mm-hmm. So I knew that date would work regardless of what else was going on. And I mean, so I had been living and working and doing our thing, and then come home and boom, sit down with you, and it was wow. The whole I don't even know how long it was, but it felt like about 5 months or so, I think, if we look back. Mm-hmm. The entire time was, having conversations with you in my head, or having conversations with other individuals pertinent to what I was trying to communicate to myself, right? But using this audience, this particular individual as the audience to try to get things situated inside my head, communicating it to someone else, right? Mm-hmm. And so, to see how, even though all there was this giant box of topics, the questions you asked and the way that the conversation went, it brought to life to me, or for me, the idea or the concept that what's going on behind the skin, underneath, all the parts you can't see. What does me having those conversations with the imaginary you, myself, how does that play into what you decide to ask me, right, when we sit down and talk? Because it all played out, and I have, my notebook's not over there, I have it out because I thought it was important to have it out. And one of the things I've done since we sat down last week was kind of got my notebook back out, because I was kind of so unprepared, how much on track did I stay with the plan that I have, so to speak, with what I'm trying to do with this story, right? And there's 2 levels here, because there's Conscious Evolution, the channel, right? And that is inside this other octave that's the Rockman universe itself, mm-hmm. right? And so you have Rockman universe, and you have inside that Conscious Evolution, then inside that there's this story.
There's Traveling Builders.
Well, those are over here. Those are all inside Rockman, the Rockman universe. But inside Conscious Evolution, we're going to zoom in further, and here's this story, A Journey into the Abyss. And so there's 3 levels, and just how, one of the things we've talked about, especially in chapter 2, was letting go of expectations and kind of flowing with things, and following the path, following the signs, follow the path, what moves you, and all that kind of stuff. And so what I witnessed on a shorter time period is that process again, with what went down, kind of sort of looking back over this last week, mm-hmm. and how sitting down last week for chapter 3,
right.
and then looking at the notebook, And I mean, you know, I'm trying to balance all this with family and getting my garage clean. It's getting ready to be tax time. I gotta have somewhere to sit down and do, you know, so trying to balance all this with that. But still, I got to my notebook yesterday and like, well, let me just, you know, flip through some of this and see kind of where I am in these ideas that I've put on paper, and like it all lines up. And so it really clicked. It has been clicking, but it really clicked last night. Like I'm ready to sit down and kind of wrap up A Journey into the Abyss, and I feel like we can have a pretty good conversation that the audience can relate to, hopefully. And there's certainly some key points that I want to make sure that we touch on relating to, you know, what's ultimately just my story.
And we've all got a story.
There's nothing any bigger than that. This is just my story, right? That's all. So, anyway, that's where we're at. That's a lot.
Hey, I love it. And like we were talking off camera, we've all got a story.
Right.
And so how does metaphysics play into each one of our individual stories?
All right, so you asked me that last week, and I know there was a couple variations of that question you asked that we never actually answered. But so like metaphysics, just generally speaking, is the study of everything that you can't see, right? And so in the universe itself, you know, we look out, and I don't know what the exact numbers are. We are going to do episodes where we're dealing with the exact numbers, but for right now it doesn't matter. But right, the universe as a grand total is expressing a very small amount of itself in any given moment in light, in, you know, photons, protons, and these different wavelengths. But it's such a small percentage that's actually tangible for science to study, to touch, feel, measure, see, hear, so forth and so on. So metaphysics is the 99.9999% of everything else that's involved in this process that we call life, or the universe. And metaphysics dives into that, where our current science, all the way down even to physics, you know, physics takes the atom and splits it and starts looking at its parts, but it's still looking at something that's tangible. Something that you can point at and say, hey, that you can see, I can see, we can talk about that, right? So metaphysics, it deals with things that we can't bring into the real physical realm and put on the table and say, let's discuss that. It's about a journey into the abyss, where you can't see, right? And so there's, you know, a whole nother set of equatable to your eyes and your ears and your mouth and your nose and your skin, right? There's these senses that are equatable to those, but they're different. And
I always think of a Bible verse when you're talking, and the thing.
Well, that's good, because I want that to happen, but
right.
I want that.
I'm thinking of the evidence of things not seen.
Yeah.
You know, so when you said not seen, that's what popped in my head.
Well, that's good, because I mean, listen, I'm not a religious person, and I think over the course of time, most of us can agree, if we're honest with ourselves, that religion has done a lot of things that, on the surface, seem, for lack of a better word, evil, right? Like, again, totally anti what the church says they're for. How many people have been killed because of religion? And so even right now, right? Again, go ahead and say again, like we're Hamas and Israel is going at it, or Palestine and Israel basically is going at it. I mean, how long has that war been going on? It's because of two different religious beliefs. And so, like, right, I'm not a religious person. I enjoy.
But faith is the substance of things hoped for, and the evidence
faith
of things
is huge.
Not seen.
And but going back to religion, I really enjoy the history, because what religion has done is it has given us an unbroken history, right, to look at. Now, we need to understand how to look at it, and the way that I need to look at it to make sense, and the way that you need to look at it to make sense, or whomever, may differ, right? And we may be looking at a different portion of it. And that's what religions are, right? Like this one's, looking, here, I'll grab one of my little things here. If this is the truth, and here you have one religion looking down at it this way, and you have another religion looking at it this way, And then, you know, you have another religion looking at it here, and then you have another religion that's camped inside looking out, right? Instead of looking this way, it's looking out at it, which is really sums up most of your matriarchal and what your pagan beliefs, right? So there's all these different, even if we all are looking at the same thing, there's all these different perspectives that we can have that are going to produce a different understanding, a different vision, a different, you know, everything. And we're excited to move out of this book and into what's coming next, because we're really going to, you know, dive into explaining some of these things that that I see, at least, or that I have seen, that I have experienced, the best that I can.
Thanks for watching. Join us next time on Conscious Evolution. Don't forget to subscribe.